Good afternoon. My name is Josh Ezell. I'm owner and designated broker of Breakthrough Real Estate and Property Management. Hope you're having a great day. Realtors, I want to take a few moments and talk to you about time. Now, if you don't mind, I know we get asked this question a lot. So, think about it for a second. What is your time worth? Whether it's hourly or salary, at the end of the year, what do you expect to be compensated for all of your time? Now, take a moment, grab a pen and a paper, and write that figure down, okay? Just quickly write it down. Now, go ahead and set that aside, okay? We'll come back to that in a little bit. First, we're gonna talk about what we do with our time. And I've narrowed it down to the top 8 tasks that agents have to do, whether we like it or not, in order to A, make money, but B, tackle everything we need to in our business, right? So, let's go ahead and start with, first and foremost, prospecting. Of course, prospecting. Got to, day in and day out. Now, the one question is, how much prospecting? That's the question, right? Now, I can't tell you how much is right for you. Obviously more is more. But I'm gonna operate off of a kind of minimum amount. So if you go above this, perfect. If you go below, not quite what we would probably suggest, okay? So, but find your perfect number. All right, so for the sake of this analysis, we'll just use 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. Now, we're not talking, prepping for, we're talking legitimately 2 hours of hardcore prospecting, right? So we're gonna say prospecting, 2 hours a day times 3 days a week, that would be 6 hours, okay? So, not everybody does it, but as a broker, I am a firm believer in farming. Pick an area and own it. Get as large of a market share as you can have, and that will be your greatest source of listings, et cetera, right? So, farming. Now, I guess the minimal I would say necessary to have an effective farm would be getting in front of them no less than twice a month, right? So let's say you go out for 2 hours a time, twice a month, 4 hours a week, right? Or 4 hours a month. Okay, so we'll put a little mo here for a month. All right, next, my favorite thing in the world, open houses. Now, I know some of you will say, open houses don't work. I feel you. Personal belief, there's nothing better than getting face-to-face, belly-to-belly with a prospective buyer or seller. And there's no easier way to get in front of them than via open houses. It's the only way you get people coming to you in our business. So open houses, absolutely, firm believer. Now, how many though? Okay, so I will say let's do no less than one a week, okay, for 4 hours. So we'll say 4 hours a week, open houses. Okay, now appointments. If all of those top 3 went well, you will have appointments. Now appointments, let's say in a perfect world, we're going out at least 3 days a week for 4 hours a day. That should be good for at least, several appointments, right? So 4 hours, 3 days a week, that would be approximately 12 hours spent on appointments. Okay, if you're good, that could be a bunch of appointments. So, next, contracts and paperwork. Everything we don't necessarily like doing, but contracts make us money, right? So, contracts. Let's say at least 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, right? So that would be 5 hours a week. So, next, this is the part that, again, not many agents think about when you get into the business, but we own our own business. We have to keep track of our money coming in and going. So, accounting. Now, obviously, this will vary greatly depending on the size of your business, but I would say for a basic agent, 1 hour a day, probably twice a month, is probably pretty good, right? So that would be 2 hours a month-ish. All right, advertising and marketing. Now, I have these separate because you have prospecting, you have advertising, and then you have marketing, okay? In my opinion, prospecting is you on the phone, boom. Marketing is you targeting. That would be like your farm. You're marketing deliberately to your farm. You're deliberately marketing to your past clients and your centers of influence. And on the flip side, you have advertising. Say you have a listing and you're just putting mass advertising out there. That's what I classify as advertising. You're kind of throwing a mass blanket out there and not necessarily targeting particular parties, okay? It might be a stupid differentiation, but I classify them as two different things, right? But nonetheless, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, right? So that's 5 hours a week. Last but not least, emails and other. This is everything else that may or may not be necessary that we have to tackle, that hopefully we're drawing the line of not wasting our time, but details and other things that have to get accomplished, right? So let's say, again, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. So that's 5 hours a week. All right, so if we add all this up between the 6 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, adding it up between monthly and weekly, believe it or not, this comes out to 38.5 hours, okay? So let's go ahead and say that we are going to have an hour and a half of prep or whatever. Say for, taking down and putting up your open house, random stuff. So that accounts for that extra hour and a half. So we are deliberately operating off of a 40-hour work week. Now, this is where I see a lot of agents get in trouble. Just because you're busy does not necessarily mean you are working and actually doing what is most efficient with your time. So make sure when you are working your 40 hours a week or more, which a lot of us say, that we are legitimately working, okay? So now that we have our top 8 tasks of what we need to accomplish, let's go ahead and schedule our day. Okay, so this might be a good break to start part 2.